Hey everybody, John Gums going live, Dakota Grappler. Having a couple of weeks off with Thanksgiving, and then last week I was under the weather a little bit still. And so we are back. I'm going to talk some wrestling tonight. Very proud to have a South Dakota guest, Britton Boy, who's been coaching now in South Dakota. A very successful program coming up. He is currently ranked number 5, or their team is ranked 5th in South Dakota Class A in the first poll. And they have some studs. I tell you what, I've watched him really start to build that program. He does have one of his wrestlers, I think, wrestling now at St. Cloud and or University of Minnesota. That's where you have one wrestling. So he's got some D1 people out there. But what I want to do, I'm all into promoting and stuff wrestling. So I want to show you guys something as you guys are just coming to watch this. So don't fade out. We're going to watch something for a second here. And while you sleep, I mark my goal. Whoop, it's going here. My own, I gotta do this one more time. Add to the stream. Zoom in, zoom out. Don't stop at the end. You can be Okay. Well, I tell you what, we just wanted to play a little bit of that, of a hype video that these guys do in promoting the sport of wrestling. T has not been, around the wrestling scene for a long time. It's kind of been a growing community around Sioux Falls. So tell us first about, what you're doing to, grow the sport in your area.
You showed the hype video that we got done last year. And it kind of started just by default here, by necessity. My first year in T, I think we had like 12 kids on the entire roster. Our very first tournament, we went to the Rider Invite opening day, and we had one kid win a single match. And he was our unattached kid, beat our varsity 52-pounder at the time. I looked at my assistant, John Gorder, and we're like, man, what are we doing here? But the community and the kids have been really great and building it from the ground up. And so we started just like every little thing on social media, just trying to sell, what the kids are doing in the program and just turning it into a wrestling school and community. And our youth club had laid the foundation before I even got there. They've got some really good members in the community that have, sparked the interest in wrestling. And then by the time they get to high school level, that's where, everyone kind of piques their interest too. So it's been cool to see it all come together, honestly.
Okay, well, awesome. Well, I want to have you introduce yourself a little bit. I know I kind of jumped the gun a little bit, but I am John Gums. I'm the owner and editor of Dakota Grappler. I've been promoting the sport since 1999, and we've been doing these shows, Bill and I, for about 3 years. We get a few shows on every year and talk. Maybe is it the 4th year already, Bill? We've been going for quite a while, and we try to just get out and promote the sport, talk to coaches. And John, what I want you to do is just, I guess we haven't had you introduce yourself. Tell us where you grew up and how you fell in love with the sport of wrestling.
I appreciate all that you guys do to promote the sport too, because as a high school kid in Britain, I anxiously awaited the magazine to come out. I was like, yeah, we're gonna get the Grappler. And then we finally got on, the message board a little bit too late in high school. We didn't have internet until about 2007, I think, in our house. So I grew up in Britain, South Dakota. It's about 10 miles west of the middle of nowhere and up in the northeast corner of the state. Graduated in 2009 and pursued an education major. Went to Dakota State and actually decided to play football. And just kind of hopped around from there a little bit. My wife went to grad school in Nebraska, so I coached down there outside of Omaha for 2 years. And once she was about wrapping up and ready to be done. We knew we wanted to be in the Sioux Falls area somewhere. We talked about T, Brandon, Harrisburg, as smaller town feels, but really like the vibe in T. And they just happened to have the openings that right when I was looking for a job. So it was kind of a match made in heaven there.
Mm-hmm. And how about we had one of your main competitors, Harrisburg's head coach, on there last year, Rotert. And I'll guarantee you'll probably get to see him sometime soon. So tell us about the rivalries you're starting to develop.
It's kind of cool to see them come together, because when I took the job, rivalry was a very loose term. They were kind of kicking the crap out of us and taking us to the woodshed, and all. We're kind of clawing our way up, and we could see it coming. And the last couple of years, it's gotten really competitive. And Harrisburg is one that we thought on paper, God, if this kid can do this, or this kid can hold him to a major, etc., we could get him, And we were close both times and just didn't swing our way. And it's been that way with Watertown and a couple other teams. Sturgis at the state duels last year, and so it's kind of fun to see these rivalries emerge as our team is a true competitor rather than a doormat now, I guess.
Well, that was a big step, you guys making the duel last year. I think that was, for any team, I talk to the Class B coaches quite frequently, McCook's coach, and those guys, one of their biggest goals of the year is trying to make that dual tournament. To explain to the people out there how you guys actually get to qualify for the duel with the points and everything else that way in the state of South Dakota.
Yeah, so it's kind of unique. So you get a certain amount of seed points based on your opponent's record as well as your result in the duel. And then they take the top 10 teams in seed points, and they do like a normal individual head-to-head bracket where, head-to-head common opponents and all that kind of stuff sorts the teams out. So even if you're the top 8 teams, you might not necessarily make the state duels if someone else has criteria on you. So when you're doing your schedule, in the off season, you want to schedule tough teams because they're going to have a better record, and if you can beat them, you'll get more points for it. Essentially, if everybody, I could go 20-0 in duels, but if nobody else that we beat wins a duel, then we'll average less than a lot of teams that have a 750 record or so.
Okay. Yeah, I know, because you don't have officially now. Is T in a conference?
We're still technically in the DAC-12.
Okay.
We're kind of making the jump from A to AA and all the other sports. In wrestling, it's just A and B, so we've already made the jump. It's kind of a nice transition for us. But we're looking at possibly going into the ESD or the Metro, and I think that's a conversation that's to be had by people higher on the payroll than I am, I guess. So we'll see where it plays out in the next year or two.
Okay. Tell us how you handled the OPC this year, the weight descent. I know that was a big discussion with a lot of the teams, and South Dakota's really nervous because they've got to basically run their own weight descent program over the years and just cut the weight and see what happens. And now you kind of have to have a program to follow. Tell us what you've been dealing with.
Yeah, I think the fear of the unknown was the big thing for a lot of us coaches. If we could have rolled this plan out in July, had some time to ask questions, it might not have been a big deal or as big as it was. Now that we've got it rolling, it's really manageable and a lot like the other states do. I mean, it was just kind of getting through the early parts and wondering, geez, where's this kid going to get certified? Is he going to pass the P test? We're calling other people that have these scales and asking, what the body weight fluctuates at and that kind of stuff. And so we actually kind of took a college approach and had our kids just get down early, try to make scratch or really close to it, and then just pound some water and electrolytes before the weigh-in. And it worked out pretty well for us overall. I think we had one kid appeal, and it really wasn't by necessity. It was just to help make it opening day. So,
sure. Well, I tell you what, I talked to a lot of coaches on the side, and they were exactly what you said. It was like nervous because of not knowing, uneducated, that type of nervousness. Yeah. And, they've always kind of, we called it old school weight cutting, have the doctor just sign the sheet and say, yeah, it's okay, you can cut that weight. And, I'm glad the state changed, actually, South Dakota. So,
yeah. I think in the long run, it'll be a lot better for the kids and stuff too. It's just right now it's, kind of hectic on the adjustment side of it,
mm-hmm.
And go ahead here.
And I was just going to say, and paperwork.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because you always have to be watching now your weight, and as the guys go, people don't realize how much has to go into the computer, whether everything has to be on track, You got to have some good stats, and if you don't have that, it's a coaching nightmare.
It really is. So
yeah, definitely.
I think the OPC is the hardest on kids that are kind of flexing into the lineup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got a kid that he started at 38, doesn't want to cut all the way there yet. It's kind of, in and out at 45. Well, he's wrestling 52 for us, but he can't fill out the weight class like he needs to. He's already undersized for it, because otherwise it'll take him 3 weeks to get down to where he needs to be at 38, and so it's just kind of tough on some of those tweener kids, I guess.
Right. And it's the teams that have guys that, maybe they're missing a weight here or there and have to fill a guy in. They're wrestling too high, and the multiple weights of having to go up, does make a difference.
Sure.
Bill, you have any questions for him right away?
Yeah. So, you mentioned before when you first got there, you had maybe 12 guys total on the, in the room, and, how's the numbers look now? Are you able to fill 14 weight classes? You feel pretty good about getting into duels?
Absolutely. It kind of exploded over those last couple of years since then, and now we've trimmed it hanging right around 40. Which for a room our size, it's full, but it's a good full. We're just about too deep everywhere. We've got a couple of unique spots where we just can't find a right body type. Our 6-pounder this year, we rolled out a kid. He's walking around at maybe 95, 96, but he's tough as nails, and he's only a 7th grader. He'll just have some growing pains, And then heavyweight, we're just missing a guy there. So
that's a pretty common story. It's tough to have you don't have a 6-pounder, don't have heavyweight. I mean, that happens everywhere.
For sure.
Yeah, 50 guys, and then you're missing one on those ends. It's pretty common.
Definitely.
Yeah. So how about now, since you're building a program, tell us a little bit about your coaching philosophy of, getting kids in the room and then kind of finding the right niche for them a little bit. Like for an example, not everybody can necessarily be let's say a guy on their feet, or let's say a guy that's tough on top, or what kind of philosophy you have to work that?
I was really blessed, and I took the job too. I got to learn from some guys in the community. Jeremy Eimers was a big influence in the youth club, and growing up, I'd never seen a kid hardly pick top in high school. It was like an elementary thing, right? And I got to be around some of these kids that were they're okay on their feet and absolute hammers with their systems on top that they run and stuff, and kind of change the philosophy of, all right, we need to look at what the kids' strengths are more in depth. And everybody needs to have some kind of offense on their feet, but that might just be a counter offense, or it might just be trying to slow the pace down and not give up your legs, especially if you're a tall, lean kid. And I think getting the kids to buy into our philosophy overall of winning is a byproduct, and you got to trust the process. I think that was really hard early on for the kids to accept, but now they've really got it, and it's kind of cool to see, because kids are almost harder on themselves than we are. They're very much leading the team, and some of the kids, they'll get a major decision and they're upset that they couldn't get the pin for the extra points in the duel. Just trying to talk them off the ledge a little bit, but it's been cool to see their mindset change and adapt, and follow what we're about as a team too.
Mm-hmm. So what is the first series that you like to run at the beginning of the year?
Pretty much all across face series. The kids are really proficient at it, and if you saw in the hype video about
I was going to say this.
Hit the cradle, and
yep.
Got some nice little edited things in there that they can do wrinkles off of it and stuff too. And it's easy to teach. It's something that you can adapt as you go and get really, really good at it. I mean, if you watch Pier, they've run a very similar system on top, and it's always frustrating wrestling Pier, because like, you get guys, we're a team of cradlers. How are we getting cradled so much? It's especially if you've got a nasty butcher or something, a 1-2 punch off it, it's really tough to defend for kids.
Yeah, especially at the high school level, controlling arms is such a big deal. Being able to have a breakdown, control top. People don't want to pick down on you. I think that's kind of a funny thing. Some people think it's a free point, and then all of a sudden they're looking, guess what? We go down and we're getting turned, then there's issues. So I think that's a great philosophy to be very, hammers on top doesn't hurt a thing.
For sure. Because I was always, you need to get out from the bottom, because I agree with you. It's a free point. You should. I mean, it's all urgency thing. And as you got around, but good top wrestlers, like, wow, yeah, some kids are better off not getting stuck underneath. There's some kids are better off, just getting to know your kids. So
yeah, that's one of those things you start finding out early in the year in these early season tournaments against, you're wrestling kids you haven't seen before, or they're moving up a weight, or they pop in, and yeah, you say, well, we'll go down, and then we learn something. Maybe we either get better there, or we got to make a different choice.
That's why we like wrestling out of state kids, because they don't know what's coming yet.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
That's usually when you see the growth of a program, when your kids don't know who they're wrestling. I tell you what.
Yeah.
Now, how much of the wrestling do you do from you're right on the border, not far from Iowa? How much do you get to see some of these out of state schools?
Honestly, not as much as you'd think. We always have a sprinkling of teams that come over to our tournaments, and we're trying to alter the schedule a little bit to get some Nebraska schools involved and that kind of stuff. But most of the out-of-state teams we see are actually, get to see Canby opening day at the Watertown Duel sometimes, and Rapid City. They'll have 40 teams from, 4 or 5 different states come. So that's honestly about it. And, pretty much get into.
When did you add Rapid City to your schedule? Has that been the last couple of years?
Yeah, last year was the first year.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay.
We kind of had our eye on it since day one. And, until we had some kids that were ready to truly compete at it, we didn't want to take them all out west and, sit there for the weekend if they went 0-2 and, wanted them to get good mat time early on. And I think as the program started growing and the kids started getting more competitive, and we're starting to see some bigger things for them on the horizon. So.
Right. Because this year, I think he said there's 45 teams there. I was talking. It's going to be a tough tournament. Yeah, and you guys take off then. Probably, are you taking off Thursday night? What do you guys have for a schedule tomorrow night? Do you usually have a duel?
Yeah, we're taking off right after school. Hopefully, trying to beat the weather out there, and then we're just going to give the kids the evening. We pushed them really hard in practice today, and just told them, tomorrow you're going to be pretty fatigued. We'll get them early morning workout a little bit if we need to, and then 6 or 7 hours on a bus is going to be enough for you. We'll get a good hard warm up. It's nice they're not starting the tournament till noon, so that way we can kind of run it more like a college day and almost do like a mini practice in the morning after weigh-ins before they start. So
yeah, the Bismarck schools are dueling tomorrow night, and so it's kind of crazy. I know that Bismarck High, they're dueling probably the number one ranked team. Bismarck High is usually the number one team in North Dakota, but they're not to start off the season, and they're facing Jamestown tomorrow night, who's the number one team.
Ooh.
And so when they get done with the duel, that could be 9:00 at night. And then if they're going to hop on the bus and get there, I don't know how they're going to do it. If they're taking off in the morning, they'll try to get as much rest as possible and get to Rapid City, 11 or whatever before weigh-ins. I'd have to.
Yeah,
it's a tough schedule.
Yeah, that's rough, man. Like, I know a lot of teams will try to schedule duels like in Rapid or around Rapid for Thursday night, but man, especially in Jamestown, that's gonna be a dogfight. Sit on the bus for that long.
As you look at the South Dakota teams, who you see right now on the top that Brandon Valley? I know some guys have not been wrestling yet. They're kind of the preseason for most guys, but I think most are coming back here.
Yeah, if Brandon can get healthy and get kids moved around where they need to, they'll be the team to beat. Sturgis, I think, is sneaky tough too. They brought pretty much their whole lineup back, and they're looking pretty salty. I saw they just won the Mandan tournament last weekend.
They looked tough. I would say 8 of their guys were legit. 8
really?
that wrestled really good, and I'm talking. They looked in good condition. I was impressed. And I always want to say Kessler and the boys, but he's the assistant coach now.
Yeah, and Mike's done a good job of continuing Kessler's legacy there. So.
Oh yeah, he stepped down so that he didn't have all the pressure. I always give him a hard time.
Probably just didn't have the paperwork. Honestly,
yeah, that's
he just gets to coach now.
No doubt. No, so tell us now about your assistant coaches. Who's helping you out, and then let's talk about your team a little bit.
We're pretty blessed, honestly. We've got the best assistants in the state, and they get to make me look good. So. We're bringing back Todd Gannon's in for about the 3rd year. He's originally a Beersford guy, been kind of around the area and got back into coaching here a couple years ago. Josh Sundahl is in his 2nd or 3rd year in the program, and he's from Spirit Lake, Iowa. Really, really good wrestler back in the day. I think he's a finalist down there once or twice. and kind of the same thing. He's, out of coaching for a while and just got, back into it and saw that we had an opening. And I got to know him through our youth program, and he actually kind of spearheaded our off-season program. It was the COVID year because we couldn't have contact with the kids during the summer for some of our restrictions and stuff. And that was really frustrating. And just the way that he stepped up, I was like, I need to offer this guy a job, man. Cause like he was just all about it and helping the kids. And Jacob Nicolaisen is back again, helping our bigger guys. He's my left tackle actually in college. So I got some trust built up with him too. And he does such a good job with the kids. And then I guess that's it for our staff. Jordan Bean we just brought on too as a middle school coach. He's from Jackson, Minnesota. And then he wrestled at Southwest State, and so he's fresh out of college. So, but John Gorder was on staff last few years. He's volunteering his time a little bit while he's kind of going to police academy and stuff. And now you guys took him. He's living in Fargo now, so he's not able to help us out anymore.
Okay. Well, tell us about your team. Go up and down the lineup a little bit.
So I mentioned earlier, we're rolling out Slater Wilson at 106. He's undersized, but he's one of those kids you can just never count out of a match. He's got just a little funk to him, those kind of guys that make me tear my hair out, but he makes it exciting for you. He's going to be a fun kid to watch, especially as he grows into the weight class a little bit here. And then Tyler Woodring made the cut down to 13. He got fourth place at 106 last year. Really came on at the end of the year. He's another kid that's just explosive with his hips, and you can never count him out of a match. It's been fun to see him take the next step in his maturity and in his growth as a wrestler. Hunter Wilson's at 120. He's a senior this year that's kind of been in and out of the lineup. And when Quincy Holverson went down last year, he filled in at 26, and even though he only walked around at about 118 and ended up qualifying for the state tournament. And then at 26 is Jackson Cheddar. He was fourth place at 13 last year. 32 Max Lykehouse is our returning state champ. And so he's kind of grown in. We were debating whether he wanted to go 26-32, and he's like, I just don't feel like cutting that hard. I feel like I'm good enough to compete. And say, hey, you can pick wherever you want to go in the lineup. So
go right up against Omi there, yeah.
Yeah, probably. Definitely. So, and they actually met in the semis 2 years ago. That went to ultimate tiebreaker. And so I think he kind of was wanting to see where Jordan went, and I think maybe trying to chase the competition a little bit too. So, but cool. 138 is kind of to be. What's that?
Is Stuntbeck? Is he back? Sure.
Yeah. So he and Parker Wilson are both kind of walking around between 139 and 144 on any given day. So Parker Wilson actually is the younger brother to Hunter, the 20-pounder.
Okay.
So he's going to be at 38 this weekend, and Wyatt's going to wrestle 45. So we're just kind of playing with some things and kind of seeing where the kids want to be and testing the waters early in the season before we have to make that decision final. So then Austin Eimers has been holding down the fort at 52. He was the one I mentioned earlier that was kind of afloat in the lineup too. He's about a 45-pounder that's going to fill in, and until Dawson is another one that might make the cut. Dawson Eimers' cousin. It's 52 to fill in there too. So then at 160, we got Carson Lohr coming back. He's a kid that got a ton of experience. He just had some bad luck with injuries the last couple of years. He hasn't wrestled hardly a match in about 2.5 years. And he came out and he wrestled some tough kids on Saturday and looked really good. And then last night continued it. So it's been refreshing to have him back. So, and Sam Wordle's only a sophomore at 170, but he wrestled really well. He was kind of a point away from being in the finals last year at 52.
He looked really good last year. Yes.
Yeah, he came on a real strong
when I saw how big he was as a freshman last year.
Yeah, and honestly, you see him personally, and you're like, oh, this kid's not that big. And then he's just kind of got that lean, sinewy frame to him, broad-shouldered, narrow in the hip, and yeah, he's been fun to watch too because he's gotten more explosive, and he was just a little freshman last year at 52, and now he's finally starting to kind of just take that next phase in his growth, and he'll be fun to watch at 170. So
you play football?
Yep, really good football player for us. Might have started for a lot of teams around the area. We were pretty loaded in just the positions that he's at. We had some all-state guys on the offensive side, and he ended up starting defensively after he had a couple injuries, and he played really well at strong safety for us. I mean, he was kind of a guy we leaned on towards the end of the year. So, just an all-around athlete.
This is the area that you guys got to make some hay coming up here, in the bigger weights to see if you can challenge your way in. So tell us about your guys 182 and up.
Yeah, Gavin Van Emmerich is a kid that just needed to grow into his body. He was our starting 45 pounder, I think, as an 8th grader. And at that point, he was just holding the place. And the poor kid went, I don't even think he won a match. It was like 0-30. I'm like, this guy is not going to stick it out. We need to do something for him. But he's got such a good attitude and just kept grinding. And he's finally getting it figured out. He had a great season last year as a freshman, took the leap. And he was at 170 last year as a freshman and took some lumps, but ended up qualifying for the state tournament. So we're excited about his growth and potential. And then kind of got another kid in the same boat. He hasn't had as much varsity mat time yet, but Chase DeBoer is at 195 right now for us. Okay. He's another kid that, you think he's this 18, 19-year-old man when you meet him. He's a freshman that's he's 6'3" and, 190 pounds and lean, cut up. So he's very promising moving forward too. And then Griffin Schneider's anchoring our duels again. He's back at 220. And we kind of flex him between 220 and heavyweight as needed. And he's been filling that role since he was a freshman too, kind of get thrown to the wolves, but he lives for it, man. He's got a warrior mindset. He was a two-way starter for us in football too, and we needed him on both sides of the line. So
okay. Well, I tell you what, yeah, he impressed me at times last year too. Now you don't have very many seniors, so
yeah, just 4 of them. So he's one of the 4. So
okay. One of the senior leaders.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, it's gonna be fun watching you throughout the year. Yeah, definitely. I had a couple more questions. How about this? What are you guys doing for your girls that are happening to wrestle in T right now? I've written that down.
We're just lumping them right in with the guys. So Brianna Johnson was our only girl last year. We couldn't convince any of her friends to come out. And so I said, well, are you comfortable potentially wrestling with the boys if you need to get practice time? And she just looked me square in the face. She said, yeah, I want to wrestle. And I was like, geez, don't kill me here. And it was fun to see her progression too. She made the podium, in her first year on the mat. I think she had maybe wrestled at her old school. She was from somewhere by Watertown originally, and she's been in T a couple of years now. Then we just had a second one commit this year. There's a gal in the soccer field, just an athletic, physical, stout, competitive girl. Avalon Thompson's her name. And for a couple of years now, a lot of guys have said, like, dude, she should wrestle. We finally got her to take the plunge, so she's doing it this year too. So
okay,
they practice at the same time with the guys, do all the same drills and stuff that they do. But they're practice partners with each other for the most part.
Okay, because I know it's exploding, all these things, and trying to get them mat time, and I think that's probably going to be your toughest issue, probably, unless you can find, some of these other teams have a couple girls and try to get them matches when you can, of course.
Yeah, we're definitely lucky. A lot of the surrounding schools have, a plethora of girls and a variety of weight classes too to kind of pick and choose matches. So we've been pretty lucky so far, and I think Harrisburg has like 30 girls out this year. So, wow. I mean, a lot of the girls in Sioux Falls and the surrounding area, I think, are really, really exploding. So,
we just had a girl from Bismarck Century commit to the University of Sioux Falls just today.
Oh, really?
Yep. Ray Ogden is her name. Yep. Want to say congratulations to her too for committing to wrestling college. We're starting to get a few of those now, and North Dakota will have their 3rd college having women's wrestling start up. So,
oh, really? Who just had
that? Dickinson State.
Oh, Dickinson did.
Yep.
Right on. We'll have to keep tabs on them then. They've had a pretty good boys program. So,
and they're actually starting next year already. So they're, a lot of these they'll announce it. Announce it now and start 2 years away, but they're actually going to start in 2023. So
that's awesome.
So you have Minot, Dickinson, and Jamestown. So
definitely
good for them.
No, so how about this now? As your season progresses, tell us a little bit about your schedule and what you're doing for your team come Christmas. Are you going to any big tournaments? Tell us a little bit about your schedule.
Yeah, kind of threw the kids to the wolves a little bit. Opening day, I wanted to go to a dual tournament and make sure everybody gets 4 quality matches in if they can, because we knew Rapid was coming up week 2. And that's, as we talked about, going to be just a brutal tournament. And then next weekend we're at the Madison Invite, which is not quite as big, but there's some really good competition. Omaha Central comes up to that one, and Stevens comes over, and we'll get to see some B schools that have some talented kids, and so that'll be a tough one right before the break. And then we'll have the Floyd Fair in Sioux Falls, right during Christmas break there again. So that's kind of the first half schedule. We do have some conference quads on Tuesday nights to fill in there too. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, because this Tuesday we had to hold a couple kids out for fear of their descent plan, getting altered or anything like that. So we're going to have to be a little flexible there, but I think we should be okay moving forward, especially after they get the growth allowance. We'll be pretty solid. And then right after Christmas break, we'll get West Central right off the bat on a Tuesday, our first day back in school, and we're heading to Mid Dakota Monster out in Lyman County for the first time too. So that'll be kind of a fun stretch of tournaments coming up for the guys.
Yeah, they really promote that Mid Dakota Monster. It's kind of fun the way they do that.
I'm just glad they got the new gym built, because it was getting pretty tight in the old one. Your mats are about this far from the wall, and so.
Well, you just had a couple duels last night. I was wondering. Now, I don't want to be like down on somebody or anything like that, but Sioux Falls Roosevelt looked like they forfeited a ton of matches. Do they have sickness in the room, or is it just the numbers down? I looked at the Roosevelt you guys wrestled, and who's the other one? Lennox?
O'Gorman was the other one.
Oh, O'Gorman.
Sioux Falls
Okay,
O'Gorman.
Yep.
So, Roosevelt's numbers are down a little bit. I know they had a couple kids out, they said, but they just got a new coach this year too. And I think all of Roosevelt sports have kind of taken a hit with Jefferson opening up last year. I think a lot of the underclassmen maybe went to the new school. I don't know that for a fact. I just know there's a lot of names that we used to see in Roosevelt uniforms that are now up there. So I think there's a lot of factors that played a role in it. But they did have, 8 or 9 kids that wrestled JV matches and stuff. And I think they're just trying to ease their kids into it and wait until they're ready for varsity mat time. So
trying to tread the storm a little bit and see what happens. Yeah. I hate to, how would you say it, to say something bad about a team when I don't know anything about them. But I'm just hoping. I don't like to see a lot of the forfeits in the duels, and kind of,
especially for a school that size too. I mean, we were kind of taken aback too. So, but.
And so it'll take a little bit, and it's a growing process. And I see you just got to get the right people in there and promote. And we have the same thing. Fargo's got some big schools that don't have many wrestlers out right now, and we're trying to figure that out. In the state of North Dakota too. And wrestling isn't for everybody, but they have a lot of other things that are offered to them. They got hockey, they have basketball, and they have some other things. I'm just hoping we get the right guys in the right spot so these teams can fill and be competitive, and give people an opportunity to wrestle, I don't know.
For sure. And you hit the nail on the head, and there's opportunities like, growing up in Britain, that's about all there was. If you couldn't shoot a basketball, you're going to wrestle or not do anything in the winter, So we didn't have hockey or any of that kind of stuff.
So Bill, I see that too, that Carrington, took a lump the other night, and with the boys.
Well, they lost to Oaks, but then they beat Hillsboro. The next Tuesday night. But yeah, their numbers are down there. I mean, there's a fair number of I would say against the Hillsboro duel, there was Carrington was only open at one weight, but there's a lot of really young kids filling weight classes, so they went off, and they got some individuals that wrestled pretty well, and some that are still growing, trying to get back to where they should be, I think. And the Velvet tournament last weekend. So yeah, it's a bit of a struggle right now.
I know when people manage as a coach, sometimes you want to get some guys some experience, but you got to weigh out the level of competition they can be at to it. Sometimes you don't want to throw them to the wolves and have them then completely quit and say, guess what, this isn't for me.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, like a lot of those kids went to Velva and wrestled in the, junior high tournament on Thursday night, or wrestled in the JV tournament on the weekend. And so they're able to have a little bit of success, but they they are getting used in duels, on the,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't, I guess I would say this coaching staff, and, from the time that, they come through the pit crew room all the way up through the high school room, losses don't bother them, right? I mean, it's the process of just keep trying to get a little bit better every day. And, these same kids that are wrestling in varsity matches today as 7th and 8th graders were in Denver a month ago, and, getting beat up there too. And I mean, it's just one of those things. It's part of the process, and hopefully we can keep them. I mean, that's, but those are discussions that have to be, continuously had, right? Hey, I understand you got beat up tonight, but hey, this was good. This was good. We're just trying to get a little bit better every day, and don't worry about that match. We're looking to build for the future, and I think that's what the coaching staff is doing. I know that's what's happening in the pit crew room. When they're kindergarten through 6th graders. And I think it's happening, and I know it's happening at the high school too. So they are getting thrown into the wolves a little bit, but a few years down the road, it'll pay off.
And John, what are you doing for all your extra guys, your JV guys? You guys got a pretty good schedule for them?
Yeah, that's part of the reason we set it up the way we did, is because we know they could come to Watertown with us. The whole squad could travel. We can bring a lot of them out to Rapid.
Yeah, they got a great tournament there. Yep,
they really do. And then we have quite a few opportunities on Mondays with our conference schools. McCook hosts a nice little tournament right before Christmas break for them. And then we actually got into a couple smaller varsity tournaments too later in the year with them. We're going to send a handful of guys that, are maybe pushing the lineup or maybe are ready for some varsity action, but just not, the grind of a Class A schedule here or something. So like Wakefield, Nebraska has a little, I think it's a Class C, D tournament down there. It's a couple hours away. It's just to get them the mat time and get them exposed to different things. So,
yeah, Bill, I want to hop back to you. I want to say congratulations to your ladies. I think you guys had like 4 of your ladies for champions or something last year.
Hey, they had a great tournament. They looked really good.
Carrington just started a girls program for the first time this year.
Started a girls program for the first time this year. So last year we had 0 girls wrestling, and as of Monday, I think we were up to 21 or 22. Had 3 more show up Monday morning. Yeah, or Monday at practice. No, it's really fun, and there's some really good girls in there. I mean, there really is. It's
and some classic Carrington wrestling names.
Yeah, there's a couple. One's out with injury, and she's obviously one of our team leaders, and she's out with injury for a little while. But there's another, that's Taya, and Sadie Laura, another one that did. Yep. She wrestled her first tournament this weekend, and did come back with the championship. And there's a Schroeder girl, that's another name from town, and it's pretty dang tough. And she won the Minot tournament. She won Jamestown at 145 pounds. So yeah, it's a good group. They're really fun. They catch on quick. They're fun to coach. They're easy to push. They're not afraid of working hard. It's a good bunch. It's a good bunch. So yeah, I think some pretty good teams at that tournament. We're going to have some pretty good teams that come to the Carrington tournament this weekend. We got duels with Legacy and South Border on Friday night, and then the tournament on Saturday. Those teams are coming. Lisbon's coming. Dickinson's coming.
So it's duels Friday and the regular tournament Saturday?
Yeah, correct. And that's the same with the boys. Carrington boys will have 3 duels on Friday night. So, well, that might change now. I believe Minot is not coming, but that's been a kind of the traditional deal for quite a long time since the All Larson tournament started. There was a dual event on Friday night. Before that, it was a 2-day dual tournament.
Right.
But we're getting a tough time having a lot of good dual teams. But yeah, it's a good. Napoleon's coming. Yeah, it's a good weekend. It's a good weekend. There'll be 2 full gyms having duels on Friday night in Carrington, and then pretty good, 2 tournaments. Actually, probably 3. It'll probably a JV division too, but a girls tournament and then boys division on Saturday. So Actually, it was kind of fun to look around the state this weekend. Jamestown had a real good girls tournament. Mandan, obviously Bismarck, the Mandan Lions, they had a girls tournament. There was a girls tournament in Velva, along with the boys, and there was a girls tournament at Napoleon. Four good, solid tournaments. And when you look through the brackets, they were pretty good tournaments. So, Fargo's coming to Jamestown, or coming to Carrington this weekend also. So,
okay.
So they got about 20 girls, I suppose. So yeah, this will be the best tournament we've seen. Went to Minot for the early bird, went to Jamestown, and then obviously the Carrington tournament, and then they'll be busy. They're having fun. It's really interesting. It's great. It's fun.
Let me go through a list here real quick of the South Dakota tournaments for you guys out there watching. I know that Rapid City has its tournament this weekend. Burke Gregory has a tournament this weekend. I know that Falkton, there's a tournament. Then, in fact, in Howard, I know that the Ken Rummel Invitationals this weekend, if I remember right. And then I believe there's a small tournament in Mitchell, the Tiger Invitational. Let's think what else. Webster, South Dakota has the Shoemaker Showdown. Wow, there's quite a few. Now, the Lakota Nations tournament, which is the Native American schools. I know that Turtle Mountain used to go down there. For Yates, actually, their numbers are way up down there. I think he had up to 20 wrestlers down there when they had like 3 the previous year. So I'm not sure. Sometimes Fort Yates will go down to Rapid City for that. Then I think that is about it for South Dakota. In North Dakota, I know we have the Sertoma in Grand Forks. We have the Carrington tournament. Let's think. Can you think of any other?
Lemoore.
Yep. Lemoore has a tournament this weekend. I know that Kenmare has a tournament also this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
So,
they usually do this weekend. Yeah.
And so there's quite a few. And, the Bowman has a tournament. So on every kind of corner of the state. I know that if you looked at the Carrington or the Grand Forks tournament, Sertoma, Valley City is on one side with West Fargo, Cheyenne, and Grand Forks Central in the bracket, and quite a few Minnesota schools, but Jamestown and Century are on the same side.
Oh, okay.
So they could meet in the semis if they both make it that far, that is. And so we might see some crazy big duels in the Class A. I know they put out that bracket earlier today, and I was looking at that and saying, oh my, there could be some great battles as of the second week already on the dual side in the state of North Dakota.
Sertoma, they're having a girls individual tournament also.
That is correct. Yep, that is correct. And I know that they were having, it's amazing on how it's growing in the state of North Dakota. I know that, when I talk to the coaches, I know that if people got a Rock Finn, I know that he did a girls rankings. So there's something out there for that. And I know the Class A rankings are out. I started to put the Class B rankings together. I have not published it. I'm just kind of a busy guy. I guess I had a hard time getting them all done. But so if you guys are out there and want to help out, feel free to contact me. You definitely use some help getting the Class B and the girls rankings together for one more year, as long as I guess my boy's wrestling. He's a senior this year, so it'll free up some time next year.
Yeah, one thing we haven't talked about, but in the last week that's happened here in the state of North Dakota is last year there was 173 girls wrestled in the state tournament, and there was no qualifying. Right, everybody that could go. Right, that was it. Now this year, I think that right now it's really close to 400 girls in the state. So there will be 2 qualifying tournaments, one on the east and one on the west. They've split them up. It'd be obviously the East Conference in Class A, and regions 1 and 2 in B are all in the east, and then the Western Conference, the WDA, and regions 3 and 4 will all be in the Western qualifying regional tournament. And also there will also be a state girls dual tournament.
That is correct.
Last week. So that is probably, to me, the most exciting news of the season so far. There should be, I don't know, it's hard to tell for sure, but I think I count 9 or 10 girl teams in the West that kind of have a good full team, and about the same in the East.
Right.
It'll be good, solid dual teams. So there'll be some dual. I think the West is going to have. They're actually going to dual everybody. I think that's out there. So they're going to be just like they do in Class A WDA. They're going to go with the season rankings. Top 4 will make it. In the East, there will be a dual tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, that is great news.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So that's that's something that obviously here in the Carrington squad, that's kind of what we're aiming for. We got pretty close to having we should have a full squad. I mean, we're really close. I mean, if we don't, I mean, we have enough girls. It's just a matter of finding a 100-pounder and a heavyweight, right? It's the same story. We had two of the 3 that showed up this week are 100 pounds, so they're welcome with open arms. But we won't see them for a few days. They got to get some practices.
There's a learn
the sport, but they're going to get thrown to the wolves at some point. But yeah, it's so that's great. It's good news. I don't know how the state tournament's going to look this year. I don't know how the TV coverage is going to look this year, but there will be girls having duels, and it will be a bigger state tournament than it was last year.
Right. I haven't talked to Jordan Hazler yet with Beck and see how we've always had the 2 broadcasting stations. If he's going to get a third one just for the girls and tape delay it or do whatever,
right.
have it live later, because that he didn't have it last year, and I think I'm hoping that they've accommodated our.
They'll have to find. Yeah, I don't. I hope they do. I'm on the side of let's get her done. But.
I agree. How about this? Let's talk just a touch about college, and then I want to do the rapid fire questions for John, and we'll go from there. Okay. So I know that there's a couple of duels tonight.
There's no wrong answers, John. No wrong answers.
Yep.
All right, no pressure.
What can you tell me? I know there's a huge duel on Friday, NDSU against University of Minnesota. At NDSU, Minnesota had a huge win this last week, against Oklahoma State. Took a dual victory that I didn't think they were capable of winning. When I was going into that, and I'm going, oh my, Minnesota.
They should have lost to SDSU.
Yeah,
I mean, SDSU should have beat them. That looked like that was going to be a win for the Jackrabbits. I mean, you come up to the last few matches, and it comes right down to Carlson at 41 losing, in a match that we thought he would win. But it'll be fun. Obviously there's a big highlight match there. Jared Franick and Brayton Lee. Hopefully Brayton Lee toes the line. He's not. He's coming back from injury. He did wrestle at South Dakota or at Oklahoma State. Lost to Caden Gfeller. I don't know. I mean, Brayton Lee's ranked 2nd in the country coming out at the beginning of the year, but that obviously is going to drop now. Maybe it probably already has. I haven't looked at the newest D1 rankings, but that's a great match. I mean, those guys are. It's a good match. It's actually one of those matches. Kind of tough for Jared. He's wrestled in the past, and Brayton has really good defense. He's hard to score on. He can finish attacks. He may not score a lot, but he can shoot a lot, and guys that really attack a lot, sometimes, Jared has tough time keeping up with. I think there's nobody in the country, and I'm probably one of the few that thinks that really Jared Franick can beat. I mean, he's really good. He can score. And he's really good on top. He can generally get away from bottom. That will not be an issue here. Brayton Lee is not going to wrestle from the top or bottom position.
Yeah, he's going to stay on his feet.
He's going to stay on his feet. He may not pick bottom. He didn't against Gfeller, and right. I know there was a lot of people question that, but that's not new. That's been, he could be down by 1 and his choice in third period. He's picking top. He figures he's got a better chance of getting 2 takedowns than he does of wasting time on bottom. So that'll be fun. It'll be fun. I won't obviously I'll be sitting in the gym. I won't get a chance to watch that duel live, but I do look forward to trying to find it afterwards. But that'll be a good one.
Got Kellen March, South Dakota boy.
Yeah, he's up a couple weights. It'll be interesting. I actually think that NSU has a chance to win a few matches, for sure. you should win in heavyweight. It'll be fun. It'll be a good deal. It'll be competitive. But I think the Gophers, obviously, there's just a lot of bullets there.
Mm-hmm. I think NDSU's pretty healthy right now. I mean, they've had a couple of weeks off here, and Minnesota's very hungry. There we go. Is that trying to figure out the crash and burn there? Is that me or is that something else?
Not on this end. I can hear it.
There we go.
That's at John's house.
Kids are still up.
He's got younger kids than I do.
That's okay. But no, I'm looking forward to it. In fact, I am somehow, some way going to be either in Carrington Friday night or in Fargo Friday night. It all depends on my direction. I haven't quite figured out which way would be best. I know I could go out to NDSU. I've got a place to stay out there, but we'll have to see. I think one way or another, I'm going to catch some wrestling Friday. My son will be wrestling in Grand Forks. I can't get out of school, so he'll be done wrestling. So I'll catch him Saturday morning wrestling there, and that'll be probably the time when the semis could be. That be the match between Jamestown and Century. You just never know how big that could be. But Century, like I said, Century's got a couple sicknesses. Maybe they don't even make it to the semis. You never know, I guess. But let's go to rapid fire questions. I know we could talk about Northern State and about Dickinson, but let's do the rapid fire questions. We're at 51 minutes here. We're going to give a little test to John here. I added a few more questions that Bill hasn't even seen before, so they'll pop up on the screen.
Well, maybe there are wrong answers, John.
Yeah.
I don't even know what. I've been wrong before, so.
Okay, here we go. Well, here's first question I usually ask is, what is it like to be coached by you if asked, if we ask your wrestlers?
It depends on which wrestler you ask, but no, I think they have fun with it too, and they know that they're loved and supported either way. We coach them hard, but we're also really honest with them, and we try to taper back, when we can tell that they need it. So
okay. What is your college wrestling team?
I actually get a lot of flack for this. I don't really have a college team. I just kind of pick and choose guys here and there, and even some coaches that I like. I like just a lot of Big Ten wrestling, so I suppose I probably have to start cheering for the Gophs a little bit now that Quincy's up there, but we'll see.
Gatorade or Powerade?
Definitely Gatorade over Powerade.
Okay, and what color?
I'm kind of a basic, just a yellow or blue.
Okay. Popsicles or dilly bars?
Not really a big cold treat guy altogether. Probably popsicles between the two.
Okay. Give me 3 characteristics that all wrestlers need to have.
Ooh. Toughness, resilience, drive.
Okay. Are you a mama's boy or a rebel?
Probably more mama's boy, honestly. I'm rebellious in certain ways, but I also towed the line quite a bit growing up. So,
okay. Have you seen a UFO?
No, not that I'm aware of, I guess.
Every wrestling tournament, unidentified flying wrestler. Okay. That's
we can usually identify those at least.
Yeah. Major League Baseball or NFL?
I got to go NFL between the two.
Okay. Fast paced or consistently slow?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm going to go fast paced.
Okay. Physical or mental athlete?
Probably mental's got to have the edge. I mean, you need aspects of both, but I mean, you can save a lot of the physical pieces with your mentality.
Favorite holiday?
I got to go Christmas. It's that time of year too.
Dan Gable or Cale Sanderson?
Oh, that's a loaded one. I'm gonna Cale.
Loaded. He asked that one to Dan Gable.
What was Dan's answer?
Dan
you
goes,
know.
What? Yeah. He goes,
yeah.
He goes, I have my own beer. He says, gotta pick Dan Gable.
Yeah,
Gable.
it's hard to argue against that, I guess. Then.
Yeah.
I'll give Cale a slight nod just for giggles here.
Yep. Favorite number?
Ooh. 28.
Okay.
Don't
Football
really have a
number?
reason why. Yeah,
No.
I always kind of liked it. It says my first football number, and yeah.
Okay. Best wrestler you've ever wrestled?
Ooh, the best wrestler I've ever wrestled. See, I was a choke artist at the state tournament, so I never actually got to wrestle Robert. I got to go with Logan Storley. We wrestled quite a bit in youth and middle school. Then we were always a couple weight classes apart in my high school career, so I never competed against him in a varsity match. But yeah, Logan is just unreal, man.
Yep. Any habit you learned in wrestling that you still do today?
Like in my personal life,
Maybe.
Okay.
Phew. I mean, there's a lot of little habits that you do. I still check my weight more often than is necessary. You know, it means absolutely nothing. I still step on the bathroom scale and you're like, this thing's got to be off. I didn't gain a pound and a half fluid, you know.
Yeah. I always say that I still drink water like I'm losing weight. I don't know why it is. I go to a fountain, then I'll take a sip, think about it, take another one. Should I take another drink or not? You know, I don't know why that is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay. Which show would you be seen on? Storage Wars, Survivor, The Voice, or Jeopardy?
Well, originally I'd say The Voice, but during wrestling season, no way. I scream too much. And
Oh, blanked him out for a second here. I didn't remove him. There he is.
He's
You're
back.
yeah,
good.
my screen just went to sleep on me there. So
Yeah, one
yeah,
of your things
The
on
Voice.
your show, it said you were a vocalist. It did say that. I don't know if it was your own page. I kind of read that somewhere on the internet.
Oof. Don't go down any YouTube channels. You might find some stuff you don't want to see, I guess.
Cat, bird, or dog?
Oh, a dog, 100%. It's man's best friend.
Yep. If you could have been a fly on the wall in some other coach's room, whose wrestling room would you have spied on?
Oof, that's a good question. You're talking like somebody that we wrestle against, or just anybody?
Anybody.
Could be anybody.
Oh man, I would have loved to see the Brands brothers go back in the day. So, not even in the coach's room, just in their basement, probably.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna say their high school room, probably.
Name one phase you use coaching. Okay, that you phrase it's supposed to be. Phrase that you use in coaching that you can't use anywhere else.
Oh man, this is a loaded question too.
It is.
One phrase you use coaching you can't use anywhere else. I'm gonna pass on this one if I can.
Yeah, this is rated PG.
Yeah, mine's not in the right places.
I've seen that one too. Okay, well, I tell you what. One more thing. Is there any big coaching philosophy that you picked up from one of your coaches that you want to pass on to somebody else someday?
Honestly, you guys kind of touched on it earlier, talking about just getting better every day. Because if you take the losses to heart, it's going to be grueling, and that kind of carries on into life too, right? Like we always strive to be better than we were the day before, and just kind of stay grounded. You know, never get too high with the highs, never get too low with the lows, and just keep everything into perspective. So, just treat winning as a byproduct. That's the biggest lesson.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. It's amazing how sometimes it just flows. When if you had to think about it, and the pressure it isn't there, but you do know the big picture. Good coaches do. Yeah, definitely. Sure. Well, Bill, I tell you, we're at that hour point. You got any big questions? I kind of run the show a lot tonight.
No, I don't have anything. Nice to meet you, John. I look forward to follow your team this season. I think that's kind of fun. A couple years ago, I had a job. I traveled all over the state of South Dakota and North Dakota too, but I find myself staying in T probably once a month at that time. And I kind of can see how that area could. I'm sure it's a growing area with a lot of young families, and there's I bet a lot of wrestlers are going to come through there. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Well, thank you. Very nice to meet you guys as well, and appreciate you having me on.
it's great to have you, and I wish you the best of luck. I know you've got a great team. Hope you guys stay healthy and uninjured as the year goes. Stay competitive. That's all you can do, and wish you guys the best of luck as it goes. And I'll try to catch you at the state wrestling tournament. And I tell you what, thank you so much for being on.
Hey, thanks, fellas, and good luck to you guys too. Bill with your squad and John with your boy, and
yep,
it'll be fun wrestling up north this year too. So we'll keep tabs on you.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, awesome, guys. Well, I appreciate it. John Gums, Dakota Grappler. Anything you need from wrestling, try to find it. Here, come visit, talk, whatever you want to do. Just go out and promote the sport. We're here. We love the sport, so do your best to promote it and get those guys and ladies out there. Next week, I believe I'm going to have a college coach on. We'll talk about it a little bit more, and we'll keep going from there as Christmas break comes not too soon. Okay, we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night.
Hey, have a good weekend.